The moment the Lemnorian Empire fucked with Earth was the last time those alien bastards would ever underestimate humanity. The sleek Lemnorian spacecraft pierced Earth's atmosphere, its two occupants quietly scheming. Fenris and Zor-El, 7-foot jackal-headed scouts, were the vanguard of an empire spanning a quarter of the galaxy. For ages, their people had conquered unsuspecting planets, first with fake diplomacy, then overwhelming force. Earth was to be their next meal. The ship landed at the United Nations as an honor guard of Marines snapped to attention, led by steely-eyed Sergeant Jason Reed. An awed murmur spread through the human onlookers at the sight of the towering blue-furred aliens. Fenris and Zor-El exchanged smug glances. Surely these Earthlings would cower like all the rest. Fenris launched into the usual Lemnorian greeting, but instead of quivering, the humans leaned in, eyes alight with fascination. The Secretary-General smiled, inviting the visitors to a grand reception to experience the finest Earth had to offer. The aliens were baffled but agreed, eager to gather intel for their coming invasion. Yet as the gala began and humans mingled with the beastly giants, unease crept into Fenris's jackal snout. He pulled Zor-El into a corner. "So these humans are not like the others," Fenris growled. "If we cannot crush their spirit, the Lemnorian Empire may have finally bitten off more than it can chew." As the gala swirled on, Fenris and Zor-El worked the room, chatting up human generals, CEOs, and politicians. They lobbed subtle questions, fishing for details on Earth's military might and resources, but to their growing shock, the humans answered openly and enthusiastically. A 4-star general boasted about the destructive power of humanity's latest fusion bombs. The CEO of EarthTech eagerly described the efficiency of their automated factories. The Secretary of Defense even offered the Lemnorians a VIP tour of Earth's strategic titanium reserves. Fenris's fur bristled with unease. He gestured to Zor-El and they slipped out to a quiet balcony. "Something's off," Fenris growled. "No species is this forthcoming, especially to outsiders." Zor-El nodded, baring his fangs. "Agreed, but let's not jump to conclusions. Perhaps humans are simply naive fools." Just then, Sergeant Jason Reed stepped out to join them, a knowing smile on his face. Fenris rounded on him. "Why do your people trust us so readily?" the jackal alien demanded. "You know nothing of us or our intentions." Jason chuckled, completely at ease. "Honestly, we don't, but we have a saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer." The Marine leaned in, lowering his voice. "You see, when an unknown ship entered our solar system, we naturally assumed it might be hostile. So while my superiors greeted you, they also dispatched stealth probes to your ship." Zor-El whipped his head around in alarm, but Jason's gaze didn't waver. "Imagine our surprise," the human continued smoothly, "when we cracked your databases and discovered you've pulled this fake diplomacy trick on over 100 worlds before invading." Fenris gaped at him, momentarily at a loss for words. Zor-El looked ready to pounce, but Jason held up a calming hand. "Relax, we're not going to do anything, but you should know that if you do decide to attack—" He paused, letting the implication hang. "Well, let's just say we've been watching you watch us. We've seen the technological edge you usually rely on, and we have some surprises of our own." Jason snagged 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter's tray and held one out to Fenris. "Care for a drink?" he asked, utterly unconcerned. The jackal alien took the flute reflexively, still processing the human's words. Zor-El looked like he'd swallowed his own tongue. Fenris and Zor-El stared at each other in utter disbelief. Their eyes locked with the unspoken realization that the entire mission had gone spectacularly sideways. The usual Lemnorian infiltration playbook was in tatters. As the reception wound down, Fenris nudged Zor-El. "We need to go, now." They made their excuses to the human dignitaries and slunk back to the ship as quickly as decorum allowed. The moment the hatch sealed behind them, Fenris lunged for the comms array. "I must inform the Emperor at once. The humans, they're not at all what we expected. If they pierced our encryption that easily, their technology may be on par with ours. We may have finally encountered a species we can't simply overwhelm by force." Zor-El paced the deck, his tail lashing with agitation. Wait, Fenris, consider this. What if it's an elaborate ruse? The humans could have planted that data for us to find, to trick us into aborting the invasion. We could be playing right into their hands. A sharp knock on the ship's hull made both aliens jump. They traded a panicked glance. Fenris swallowed hard and hesitantly cracked open the hatch. He recoiled in shock. It was Jason, lounging against the doorframe, a tablet dangling casually from one hand. "Evening, gents. Sorry to barge in, but we couldn't help noticing you're trying to phone home. I'm afraid we can't allow that. We're currently jamming all your long-range transmissions." The Lemnorians gaped at him, horror dawning on their faces. Jason held up a placating hand. "Relax, you're in no danger, but we can't have you sounding the alarm before we've had a chance to chat with your bosses. I took the liberty of setting up a direct line to your high command. How about you introduce me? I imagine we have a lot to talk about." He proffered the tablet. Fenris glanced uneasily at Zor-El as he accepted the tablet from Jason, his clawed fingers trembling slightly as he initiated the link. The screen resolved into the imposing visage of Emperor Kralthor, his regal features etched with a mix of surprise and indignation as he took in the sight of the human standing alongside his scouts in their own ship. "What is the meaning of this intrusion?" Kralthor rumbled, his golden eyes flashing. "Who are you to dare address me in such a manner?" Jason stepped forward, inclining his head respectfully even as he met the Emperor's gaze without flinching. "Emperor Kralthor, I am Sergeant Jason Reed of the United Nations Marine Corps, representing the people of Earth. I apologize for the unorthodox nature of this meeting, but given the circumstances, we felt a direct conversation was necessary." The Emperor's nostrils flared, his fur bristling with barely contained outrage. "Circumstances? You interfere with my scouts, hijack our communications, and then have the audacity to dictate terms to me. You vastly overstep your bounds, human." But Jason remained unruffled, his expression calm and resolute. "With respect, Your Majesty, it was your scouts who overstepped by coming here under false pretenses. We're well aware of the Lemnorian Empire's usual tactics when encountering civilizations you consider inferior. But as I suspect your scouts have realized, we're not as primitive or easily cowed as you assumed." Kralthor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing to dangerous slits. "Have a care, Sergeant Reed. You tread a perilous path. I will not tolerate threats or disrespect, no matter how boldly delivered." Jason nodded solemnly, acknowledging the precariousness of his position. "I understand, Emperor, but I believe you'll want to hear what I have to say. In the short time your scouts have been our guests, we've learned a great deal about the Lemnorian Empire, your technology, your strategies, your history, and your vulnerabilities. We possess the capability to cripple your empire, perhaps even destroy it utterly. But that's not our way." The Emperor stilled, a flicker of unease passing through his eyes before being quickly masked. "And what exactly do you propose instead?" he asked, his tone measured but laden with suspicion. A disarming smile crossed Jason's features. "An alliance, of course. A partnership of equals that could offer tremendous benefits to both our peoples. But before we can discuss such a future, we must have an honest and open dialogue about the nature of our relationship moving forward. Are you willing to engage in that conversation, Emperor Kralthor?" A heavy silence descended as the Emperor studied Jason intently, the seconds stretching into a small eternity. Finally, Kralthor leaned back, steepling his clawed fingers contemplatively. "Very well, Sergeant Reed," he said at last, his deep voice resonating through the audio link. "You've succeeded in garnering my attention, if nothing else. I will hear your proposal." Fenris and Zor-El traded shocked glances, scarcely believing what they were witnessing. Never before had they seen the Emperor deign to entertain the words of a lesser species, let alone negotiate as equals. The humans, it seemed, were truly unlike any civilization the Lemnorian Empire had encountered before. Jason's smile widened fractionally, a hint of relief evident in his posture. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I believe this conversation will mark the beginning of a new era for both our peoples, one of mutual respect, cooperation, and untold possibility." But before we begin, there are some critical matters we must address regarding the Lemnorian Empire's standard operating procedures. Jason leaned forward, his eyes alight with enthusiasm, as he outlined the potential benefits of an alliance between Earth and the Lemnorian Empire. Imagine the possibilities, Emperor Kralthor. By sharing our knowledge and resources, we could usher in a new era of peace and prosperity for both our peoples. Open trade would allow us to exchange goods and ideas, enriching our economies and cultures. And through cultural exchange programs, we could foster greater understanding and cooperation between humans and Lemnorians. As Jason spoke, Kralthor's expression slowly shifted. The Emperor's initial skepticism gave way to intrigue, his brow furrowing thoughtfully as he considered the human's words. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could utter a word, an urgent ping sounded from Fenris's communicator. The jackal-headed scout quickly scanned the message, his eyes widening in horror with each passing second. "Your Majesty," Fenris exclaimed, his voice trembling, "urgent news from the homeworld. There's been a coup. Your brother Zorkon has seized the throne. Claiming you've gone soft in your dealings with the humans, he's ordered the immediate recall of all scouting missions and the launch of a full-scale invasion of Earth." Kralthor leaped to his feet, his regal features contorting with rage. "That treacherous worm, how dare he betray me?" he roared, slamming his fist against the armrest of his throne. The Emperor turned to Jason, his expression grim. "It seems our negotiations must be cut short, human," Kralthor said, his voice heavy with regret. "I must deal with this insurrection swiftly and decisively. I cannot allow Earth to become entangled in our internal power struggles. For your own sake, I advise you to prepare for the worst. My brother is a ruthless fanatic. He will show your people no mercy." With that, the Emperor cut the transmission, leaving Jason and the scouts in stunned silence. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air, the implications of Zorkon's betrayal sinking in. Finally, Jason sighed heavily, his shoulders slumping. "Well, that didn't go as planned," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I'd hoped we could forge a lasting peace, but it seems war is inevitable now." He looked at Fenris and Zorel, his expression hardening with resolve. "You'd better go. Rally any allies you can, and prepare to defend yourselves. We'll do the same. But know this, no matter what comes, humanity will never surrender. We will fight to the last breath, and we will prevail. That is our way." With a final nod, Jason turned and strode out of the ship, his footsteps echoing in the sudden stillness. Fenris and Zorel watched him go, a mix of admiration and trepidation etched on their alien features. As they prepared to lift off, Fenris turned to Zorel, his expression haunted. "Do you think the humans truly stand a chance against the full might of the Empire?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zorel shook his head slowly, his eyes distant. "I don't know," he admitted. "But one thing is certain, win or lose, the humans will make our people bleed for every inch of ground, and that is why they are the most dangerous foe we have ever faced." You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.